All right, so I got cut off there, but we're still here on number 7. This is going to be the third video. So what we did was we distributed the -8 to the 5, and we got -40, and we distributed the -8 to the -b, and we got positive 8b. And the reason for that is because that there is a -1 hanging out in front of that b. So we have -8 times -1, and anytime we have a negative times a negative, we're going to get a positive. And any number times 1 is always just going to be that number. So we get 8b. And if you want to, you can still always go into your calculator and do -8 times -1, and you get 8. So always do that if you want to double check yourself. But that's how we get positive 8b. And then we haven't done anything to the right side, so we're just going to bring it down. So now, for some people, when they get to this point, they will see that the expressions are the same, and so therefore they can probably go ahead and guess what their answer is. But we're going to go ahead and work this out because I think it's important for everybody to see. So at this point, we're following the same rules in which we are. After we distribute, we would look for like terms, but on the left and the right, there are no like terms. We have a -40, which is a constant. We have an 8b, so it has a variable. And on the right side as well, we have a -40 and an 8b, so we cannot combine them. So therefore, our next step is going to be to isolate the variable or get the variable on the same side. And we're going to do that by doing the opposite of plus 8b. So minus 8b or negative 8b. And what we do to one side, we've got to do to the other. And so this is the point to where hopefully you notice something weird is going to happen, because we have the -40 coming down, but we have a 8b and a -8b, and so we know those are opposites. And so opposites always cancel out and give us 0. So we have -40 plus 0, and then if we look at the right side, we have -40, and then we also cancel. And that's what we were actually trying to do on the right side, so that we could move that 8b over and turn it into that -8b. But they ended up canceling. So we have -40 plus 0 equals -40 plus 0. And at this point, you still just keep doing the math. So -40 plus 0, anything plus 0 is just going to be whatever it was before. So -40 equals -40. So at this point, we consider this a statement. And sometimes when solving equations, you will get a statement. And what statements mean is that they can either be true or they can be false. In this case, if we have -40 and -40, they're the same numbers. So if you were to read this out loud, it would say -40 equals -40. And that's true. It's the same number. -40 is -40. So this would be a true statement. And anytime we have a true statement, what that means is any variable, anything you plug in for the variable will work. And so since that's the case, all numbers or all real numbers would be your answer. Those would work. Okay, so let's move over here to number 8. And this one is probably one of the trickiest ones. And I'm going to rewrite it here. 4 minus 3n equals negative parentheses n plus 5 minus 7. So when you have 4 minus 3n equals negative parentheses, that should be an automatic dead giveaway. All right, this is weird. We can't subtract a parentheses because it's a symbol. But we have to remember, something is always there. And in this case, it's a 1. And anytime there's just a negative and then something, there's always a -1. People just don't always like to write it. So you are going to distribute that -1 to the n and to the 5. And so what's really going to happen when you do that, anytime we distribute a negative or a -1, all it's going to do is flip the sign of whatever you're distributing it to or whatever you're multiplying it by. So in this case, we have a positive n, so it's going to turn it into a negative n. And then we have -1 times positive 5, which is going to turn into a -5. Now notice once again, I did not distribute outside the parentheses. Okay, so you can only distribute inside the parentheses. You can never distribute outside. So since we didn't do anything to that -7, we're going to go ahead and bring it down. And since we didn't do anything to the left side, we're going to bring it down. Now, after we distribute at this point, we have to combine like terms. And so therefore we have negative n minus 5 minus 7. And we do have like terms this time, and they are both constants, and that's negative 5 and negative 7. So what we get is, we haven't done anything to this left side, so we have 4 minus 3n. We haven't done anything to that negative n, so it's going to be negative 5 minus 7, or 5 minus 7, and we get negative 12. If you don't trust me, once again, always use your calculator. Negative 5 minus 7, and we get negative 12. So we have 4 minus 3n equals negative n minus 12. At this point, we got to get the variable by itself. So we're going to move this negative n over. And in order to do that, we got to do the opposite, which would be plus n, or positive n. And what we do to one side, we've got to do to the other. So these are going to cancel out. And so therefore we have 4. And then plus n is the same thing as plus 1n. So we have 4 minus 2n equals negative 12. So then we got to get the n by itself still. So we got to get rid of the other term, and that's 4. So we're going to subtract 4 from both sides. Those will cancel out. So we're getting closer and closer here to getting n by itself. So we have negative 2n equals negative 12 minus 4, which is going to give us negative 16. So then, once again, we have negative 2 in the n. So they're being multiplied together. So we got to undo that through division. So we have the negative 2's cancel. We get n by itself. And then we just got to do the math. And negative 16 divided by negative 2 gives us a positive 8.